Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to The Black Tower Show. I am your host, Nathan Ford. We're in BC Studios, broadcasting 1310 WRSB, 1590 WASB, Rochester, Canandaigua, Brockport, upstate New York. Fall day, and we have, in The Black Tower Show, General Hamid Gul. General Hamid Gul on The Black Tower Show is a retired high-ranking general officer in the Pakistan Army and a former spy master famous for serving as the Director General of the Inter-Services Intelligence, the ISI, Pakistan's premier intelligence agency, between 1987 and 1989, during the late stages of and post-stages of the Soviet war in Afghanistan. General Hamid Gul, very outspoken against the U.S. and the policies that we have here. But we talked to General Hamid Gul because it is the version of America that we both have a disdain and a dislike for. There is a secret America that the public does not know about. We are kept in the dark about a lot of the things, most of the things, the way that we operate. And it's important to talk to people that are inside, that know about what is really going on, despite our opinions, despite our biases. It's important to get at the truth, and that's what we do on the Black Tower Show. General Hamid Gul, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
You're welcome, and my salutations to your listeners.
Let's begin with the Peshawar church attack that just recently happened. It's a tragedy. Of course, the two Islamist militant groups came out. They said they ordered the attacks to hit back at U.S. drone strikes that are happening there in Pakistan. Could you tell us a little bit about what's happening politically in the background in regards to the Peshawar church attack, General Hamid Gul?
Yes, sir. Now, first thing to understand is, will the drone attacks win the war for America and NATO forces in Afghanistan, or is it already over? The fact is that this war is lost, and I think you are now in a position where you have to redraw your priorities, American policymakers, but they don't seem to give up their original ideals or whatever the objectives they had worked out in the beginning of the war. They want to sort of draw, as it is said, victory from the jaws of defeat. Now, this is not possible. And as far as their claim that they are targeting the Al-Qaeda operators, I believe you may not more than 24 operators would be there, of Arabs who are married to various families in the tribal areas of Pakistan. Now they have children which have grown up. They can't leave that place. But other than that, I think Al-Qaeda is no more. It has boomed off to Chad, to Yemen, to Al-Qaeda, Islamic al-Maghrib, to Libya, and more particularly to Syria. And very soon you will find them perhaps in Egypt as well, because what the Americans and the rest of the Arab countries who are staunch allies of America, they have done to democracy in Egypt, it is not going to be digested easily. So there is no purpose behind drone attacks other than this, that the other countries like Pakistan are not sovereign, that their boundaries are violable. Whenever America wishes, they choose their own target and they decide to strike it. Now, this is setting absolutely new trends in the world global relationship between the nation. It bypasses the United Nations. It has no sanction from Pakistani parliament or from the people of Pakistan, and I'm sure it has no sanction from the American people either. So this is a whimsical exercise which is being carried out, and it is going to have a very negative effect. Now, I was reading only yesterday that Chinese have started making very advanced drones. That means Chinese are thinking of using the same weapon, sometimes perhaps against America. If Chinese really build up a military might, which America enjoys today, then what might happen to these kind of relationships? So this is diabolical. It's nonsensical. And I think the American governments need to be checked by the Congress and by the Senate. Why are they not checking? Why are the people of America being kept in dark? People of America, in my opinion, are very gullible, very innocent. They don't know what is happening in their name, where their money is being squandered, and why their blood is being wasted in the dry, rugged hills of Afghanistan or in Iraq, or now same Al-Qaeda which you were killing, now you are supporting them and your friends are supporting them, your allies are supporting them. What is this nonsense? Why this dichotomy? Why this contradiction? This has to be understood by the people of America. So we work together. I know you have said things that inside of the American secret operations, nobody seems to know. But since I worked with the American CIA here and I was in charge of the operation, so I know exactly what they do. Not absolutely exactly, but I have a fair idea of what they are doing. And I also suspect that there is a considerable daylight between Pentagon and President Obama particularly, and corporate America. Because corporate America wants to sell its weapons. Corporate America has own axe to grind. Corporate America is nobody's friend. You think that they roll in money for the American people's welfare? This is wrong. Now they are investing all over the world. They are investing in China. Heaviest investment in China is from the American corporate world. So they are investing and going out. The money is going out. The capital of America is going out to other countries because they have no flag or no frontier. They just have their own interest, money and materialism. So really it is, I know that what CIA does and what how Pentagon makes long-term policy. People of America, I think Ross Perot was dead right when I listened to the entire debate, and when he came into as an individual, he had no party, and he got 19.5% of the vote cast. That was remarkable. And he was trying to give a message which unfortunately went unheard subsequently, because he was saying that you are used only for a voting exercise on a particular day, and then after that, the special interest groups, the corporate world, and lobbyists from all over the world, whoever can pay more money. So America's morality is gone. So you may have technology, but technology without morality, I often say, is rascality. It is not going to carry you anywhere. Americans are great people. It's a great nation. It has built a model. And now when you talk about democracy, what is good for you must be good for others. But they don't bother about democracies. And I think no less a man than Henry Kissinger himself said, please do not bother about democracies, watch your interest. And that means watch Israel's interest, basically. Israel is the one which is actually, when history is recorded, they will say it is Israel which caused the downfall of America. Because we know downfall of the West, downfall of the Roman Empire and all that, there are always causes. But I think the chief cause in this case, when future history is written, it will be Israel.
We're speaking to General Hamid Gul on the Black Tower Show. Jake Fox.
Later today, we're going to have a whistleblower from HSBC Bank, Everett Stern, on the show. Rolling Stone just did a feature on him, and he talks about how, HSBC Bank is funding terrorism in the Middle East. They're laundering money from Mexican drug cartels. And in recent years, we've seen a more open relationship between the United States and Al-Qaeda. You see the Al-Nusra Front, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group. The underwear bomber was a admitted CIA agent, as well as a CIA asset, as well as a Saudi intelligence asset, as well as being an admitted Al-Qaeda member. Do you think all of these close public relationships now are due to this, corporate evilness that you speak of, these contradictions, do you think they're coming from the corporate world rather than just the U.S. government and their intentions?
Not just the corporate world. I think that they are important because they steer the policies of America. But there is a dark impulse somewhere in the policy making of America, and those people who control it, they are a clique. They are not people of America. They don't represent the people of America, and we know them. So we can identify them. It's a short program, so I won't go into details of it. But you know that many of the think tanks actually work for other countries, and they send out papers which are harebrained, to say the least. And they are talking of Pax Americana. So there is a strategic thought in America that this is our century and we must capture it. But what have they done? You could have captured by love, by justice, by good dispensation, by looking after the other people of the world and looking to their right, that they get their rights and giving them democracy. But what have you done? Aggression, wars, bloodshed, and machination against nations, trying to demolish them, trampling over their sovereignty, which is terrible, because I think Obama is on the other day, he said in the United Nations yesterday, I think he made a speech, and he said, we don't recognize the sovereignty of other nations. We will pick and choose our own targets. What nonsense is this? I mean, he's got to see that one day, because history doesn't remain static, it moves on. And it will boomerang on American people itself. But who will suffer? Obama will have gone, others will have gone, but the American people will remain, their children, their generation will remain, and they will bear the burden of what has been left behind as a legacy of these wars. So I think it's that dark, as I said, impulse, or call it whatever by whatever. And you said evil, you use this word. I didn't want to use this word. But I think America is being projected in the eyes of the world people, in the eyes of humanity, as an evil power. It was good. It was persecuted people who came to America. They built a beautiful country, and they were a model. And they after 1945, they became imperialist. Those people who were against imperialism, they are now imperial power.
Well, America,
Why was this?
Yes, America, there was a time where America did exercise democracy, but even on the backs of the Native American people that we kicked, 2,000 years of civilization that we destroyed. And if you go through human history, violence always begets violence, and the domination of man by man just seems to continue on through time. I wonder sometimes if there is a way to stop that or curb that. Because General Hamid Gul, I would ask you, do you support using terrorism as a tactic?
Not at all. And there is no history of terrorism bringing down any state power, because states are very powerful. And if somebody could bring this down, I think Palestinians would have done it a long time back. But terrorism has never worked. Terrorism is not the answer. The answer is public mobilization. But who listens to public mobilization? 80% of people of America opposed war in Iraq. Then more, I may be wrong in my figures, but I think so many, after Second World War, the biggest rally that came out in London against Tony Blair's policy of going to war, I think it was not heeded. Similarly, in many other Western democracies, it is their voice of the people is not heard. What is a democracy? Democracy means that reflection of the will of people must be found in the policies of the state. But if state does not listen to them, and now I think it is because of the debt burden of America, see, your $16.7 trillion. Unless on 1st of October you come up with raising the ceiling of debt, you are going into default. Whose fault is it? If American people are in default, or if they are ridden by this debt burden. Who is responsible for it? What for? Why should American people suffer? American people are good, and life has become miserable for them. Wherever they go, there is a travel advisory. Don't go there. There is danger for you. It's not the Americans they hate. The American policies which are disliked. So I think America needs to, nobody can defeat America. It is so powerful at the moment that it cannot be physically beaten, except that in Afghanistan, it's a miracle which has happened because these ragtag Afghan Taliban, old mujahideen, which was described by President Reagan when Maulvi Yunus Khalis visited them. I remember that very clearly. He said that these guys are the moral equivalents of our founding fathers. That means was a question of morality, a good war, a moral war, that you can always, you will get the support and you will get the help of the people and people will understand this.
Sure, I mean, that's a tactic that is being used here in America, that this is a moral, we are sold the moral issue, that we have to make a move, we have to help our fellow people, and that does seem to be a tragedy because that's a horrible lie. Now let's switch gears a little bit because I want to talk 3 years before Pakistani terrorists struck Mumbai in 2008. Federal agents in New York City investigated a tip that an American businessman was training in Pakistan with a group that later executed the attack. Now we're talking about, the truth being hidden from Americans. Talk about David Coleman Headley. This was an American man who was instrumental. We knew about, the U.S. government knew about this and was part of that. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, exactly. I mean, they knew about everything. They knew about Ayaz Baloch, who was their agent. They knew about this David Headley. He was their agent. He had been working for them. And we know so many other people. Raymond Davis was one case where security. The worst thing is to employ irresponsible people, security agents. They have no interest. They have only money. They don't carry any responsibility on their shoulders. But today America is heavily dependent on outsourcing their wars, and you end up paying more because these security contractors, they don't give you accurate information because they want the conflict to continue, not to end. And so the misery of American people and those nations which are suffering the wrath of America or their aggression, that continues. So similarly in Pakistan, when we want to make peace, America always comes in the way. Some drone attack will come and kill those people. Now we have with Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, latest initiative by this government is to continue talking and to start new talks and make peace. But we know that the identity of those people who are communicating with them is being hidden deliberately because they think that at the moment the America comes to know, they would be killed by either one of their agents, and there is a huge proliferation of these agents here in Pakistan, Blackwater, Z Worldwide, and Dencorp, and this, that, and the other. And they're drawing huge amounts of money from American exchequer. This is wrong. I think it is at cost of American people, and they must pay heed. American people must stand up against their own policies, and I think we will have a very nice, very peaceful world, very pleasant world. And they are, unfortunately, they are also very corrupt. Today, Afghanistan, if I tell you, is producing 92% of the raw opium which is required in the world. The total world requirement, if it is 100%, 92% comes from Afghanistan, under the very nose of NATO. But there are no big holes in Pakistan or Iran, in any case, is no-go. So where is this money? How is this opium being transported, or the heroin, and where is it going? It is being transported by the military aircraft. And those people have become extremely corrupt. And they are very much involved. Similarly, in Iraq, there was a general I know of one particular case in which a Pakistani businessman was also involved. They were involved in illegal practices, and they were, using means to swindle money. And similarly now from Afghanistan, who is being actually targeted by this heroin smuggling or opium smuggling? Is the youth of America, youth of Europe, of the white races. the heritage of which Western heritage is one of the aims of America. The Western heritage must be protected. But where is Western heritage if the new generation of America is going to be put on drugs? Then this heritage cannot be protected.
I think it's an important point to make, too, of exactly how much heroin is coming out of Afghanistan. Can you talk about that?
Yes, I said so. 92% is coming, but there are factories which are probably processing factories in Afghanistan. Karzai's brother, who was killed in Kandahar, he was the biggest drug baron, and I'm sure Karzai must be having a share in it. And there are so many other warlords who are now running the government in Afghanistan, the puppet government. They are involved in drugs. When in Taliban time, the total production was 50 tons, and that too in the northern part, which was not under their control. Today it stands at 6,500 tons per year. So you can imagine who has respect for value and who doesn't have a respect for values, human values. You've got to revert back to the human values. I have seen in the American Constitution and in Jefferson Memorial, believe you me, as a Muslim, it strikes me so much because it's like the verses from the Holy Quran. It appears that our values and your values, original values, are the same. So there is no conflict. Then why are we fighting? Where is the problem? Because there is a reaction. When you want to utilize the resources and you want to gulp the resources of the other nation, and you think that this is necessary for your industry to run and for you to keep on producing more and more so that there is more people consuming. But America is not anymore a rich country. Do you know that now there was 10 years ago, 10,000 Americans used to migrate, 10,000 Australians used to apply for migration to America. Today, every year, 10,000 Americans are applying for migration to Australia and to other countries. Why is it so? Because there is poverty inside, and people don't feel that they are secure. So America needs to protect itself more than anybody else, and they must end these wars. And there is a way to do it, to open a dialogue. Respect the sovereignty of other nations. Respect their culture, because after all, we have evolved this culture over thousands of years. It's not, America is a young country. They have suddenly come up and with this boom. And of course, America has contributed a lot to the world development of the whole world. But I think they need to review their policies. They need to look back and see where we have gone wrong.
Talking to General Hamid Gul on the Black Tower Show.
This, the idea of the United States selling large amounts of drugs to fund operations is nothing new. In the 1980s, famously, Rick Ross, who was the biggest cocaine dealer in the United States, was arrested during his trial. He got a lesser sentence because it was proven he was selling cocaine for the CIA to fund their operations in Honduras. You know, the general in charge of the operations in the Russians' excursion into Afghanistan was quoted in the Asia Times saying, yeah, the United States is, you know, funding their operation in Afghanistan with the opium that they sell from the crops. And it shows. I mean, the opium production in Afghanistan since we invaded has skyrocketed hundreds of percent. You know, U.S. military U.S. military servicemen are coming home addicted to opium because of it's just everywhere where they are. It's just a complete mess, and it's a bunch of lies. I mean, how bad is the opium epidemic and the opium trade over there? And it's infesting everything from what I've seen.
Yes, exactly. I think opium is just one of the aspects, and I have tried to explain to you what is the volume of now opium trade out of Afghanistan and who is protecting their puppet government and they themselves, because they say that we don't have any mandate to destroy the opium crop. Before that, Taliban used to just by one verdict, there shall be no opium because it is human beings. It was anti-humanity. So they stopped it and finished it. And they brought perfect peace in that. The Taliban may have been very bad in some ways, but they were very good in other ways. They de-weaponized the entire nation. And now you have a big problem when the Americans leave. It is now armed to the teeth. The whole society is armed to the teeth and with latest weapons. What will happen then to countries like Pakistan? I don't know, unless we somehow pull off a very miraculous agreement with the future of Afghanistan. We will be in trouble, and the entire region will be in trouble. So the Americans have brought no good to anybody, and they have given, if you look at their past also, unfortunately it's not very laudable, because slave trading was given and slave trading was done by them. So that is also a blemish on them. And the way the animal life was destroyed, natural life was destroyed in America by the early settlers, that was also very bad. But we forgot. In between, then they came up and they started protecting. And I think as far as Pakistan is concerned, I owe them a debt of gratitude, because unless that Atlantic Charter was signed between President Roosevelt and Churchill, which is known as Atlantic Charter, and which demolished the British Empire, I think we would probably not be free today. But we are an independent country today because that charter was signed. And that is something which was great, was done by the Americans. And our founding fathers, and tell them that you are our friend, we want to maintain good relationship with you, we are indebted to you, and this, that, the other, and because you respect democracy and shun imperialism, so we are with you. So America has to revert back to its origin.
We're talking to General Hamid Gul. He's a high-ranking general officer in the Pakistani army, retired. Now, you've actually met with Osama Bin Laden, and it's coming out in the news now that you're reportedly sympathetic towards him, calling him a very sensitive man. Who's the Osama Bin Laden that people maybe in America don't know?
He is now standing up, and new powers are emerging, and America will have to shrink. It will have to go back. It may shrink militarily, no problem, because you have probably 185 bases in the rest of the world for no reason at all. They are not required. But America should expand morally. It should shrink militarily, but it must expand morally. It will be good for the world. It will be good for the American people.
You've taken a hard line against India, and it's coming out now that Abdul Karim Tunda is coming out and saying that he was recruited by you. And of course, he is known to be a bomb expert and part of some terrorist activities going on in India. You've definitely, throughout your career, have taken a hard line against India. Would you support terrorist activities happening against your enemies, India?
No, look, I am not a supporter of terrorism at all. Whether it is in India, I am a supporter of jihad. Jihad means liberation. It's the right of the nations oppressed and occupied, like Kashmir. I support that jihad, but no terrorism. I'm not a terrorist. I am a doctrinaire. I'm a strategist. Do you think I'll be handling an agent with a bad name like Abdul Karim Tunda? This is an accusation which is totally nonsensical. No, I don't agree. I've spoken to media, Indian media on top of all, and I've told them that, look, I am not. What do you think in my retired life now, in my age, I'll be doing this? In any case, what is my capacity? In 90, they say that he was handled by General Hamid Gul and financed and trained and this. This was not my job. Even in the best of time when heading the ISI, this was not my job. It was lowly job and a lowly agent. Why should I be handling him? It's an insult to me, to my abilities and to my stature. It is an insult. No, I am not involved in it. But this is so much of lies. When media is so much open, I think media is being used for casting disinformation rather than information. And media is confusing the whole world, the whole humanity, particularly this region, where media has suddenly found a new Pakistani media as well as Indian media. And they are talking all sorts of things which are not responsible. And this particular charge against me is one of them.
So maybe a movement towards peace. It's coming out now that 25 of the 30 different Taliban organizations are coming out and actually want to meet at the table. Who are the organizations that are refusing peace and that movement towards that truce?
In my opinion, there are 3 of them. It's my information. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but I know that they are hiding the identity of people, and probably they are going to let them open office so that it remains outside the dome strike of the American attacks. So I think there are 5 groups, and out of these 3 are located in Afghanistan, who are recalcitrant and they are reluctant to come on board. And 3 out of them, the stronger ones, they are located inside Afghanistan. So what option has Pakistan to do? I mean, can we attack Afghanistan? We can't even think of it. No, with the American presence there, and even if the Americans are not present, we will never imagine that we will attack Afghanistan. And they are sitting there. And then whose patronage? Karzai government? And whose government is Karzai? Is a government? No, it's American government. And the Indians are playing merry hell with us, with our blood, with our economy, with everything that goes with it. So they say that we have a compact now with India and we will protect India. India is near us and this and the other. It is nothing. It is not in favor of Afghanistan. It is not in favor of America. It's actually the Israelis who are trying to bring India and America together, because Israel feels that a time will come when America's support, White House support, unqualified support, will start eroding.
We're talking to General Hamid Gul in the Black Tower show.
General, you've reportedly met with Osama Bin Laden. And
the support is dwindling. If it is dwindling, then they must find another ally. And who is best suited for them? India, because India is imperialistic in attitudes. It wants to expand, and Israel can help them expand. This is what they are doing, because they can't go towards China. Russia has abandoned them. So now their new target is India, that India must be boosted and new power must emerge. But I think they will be a failure, because the trend of history, the torrent of history, and the current of history is actually blowing against them.
Talking to General Hamid Gul, a quote from you from Reuters says that, this is your quote, "They should know there are a lot of people here who are waiting for the conquest of India. It will be our privilege to take part in this war." What makes your jihad, your war, more of a moral war than, say, what America is involved in, the conflicts that America is involved in?
No, what I'm saying is that jihad is only for liberation of Kashmir. Kashmir has a case in the United Nations, and there was a consensus resolution. Both India and Pakistan agreed to give people of Kashmir the right of self-determination. What they are asking for is the right of vote, the right of choice, which has been agreed upon by the international community and both the belligerent parties, that is India and Pakistan. Now, why is it not being given to them? The world's largest democracy in terms of population is India, and world's leader in flag bearer in democracy is America. Why don't they give to the people of Kashmir their right of self-determination? If they give them, our problem with India will finish. This is the only issue between us and India, and we won't have to do any jihad or nothing of the sort. No, jihad is, because jihad, I fear, once it becomes international jihad, then it will go out of anybody's control, and it will ignite an inferno which will consume the entire region, and perhaps the Western interest will also suffer very badly. So I don't know. I'm a sensible person. I'm committed to peace. I'm not committed to war. I'm not committed to bloodshed. No, not at all. I'm committed to peace. And jihad is only the way of liberation. That we call it jihad. You call it liberation. You call it freedom fight. We call it jihad. That's all. It is defensive in nature. It is not offensive. It doesn't mean to it is not expansionist. It doesn't mean to conquer other countries. We have no intention to conquer India. They have intention to conquer Pakistan, to deprive us or our rightful share in the waters. They are choking off our waters, and we are going to go starving because of the lack of food which we can grow with water which flows from Kashmir. Today, our per capita water resources available to Pakistan, sweet water resources, stand at I think 1,270 cusics, and in another 10 years' time they will drop to about 740 cusics. And no nation can imagine that with 740 cusics per capita, it can survive. It is our survival which is at stake.
We're talking to General Hamid Gul in the Black Tower Show. Have you ever met with Osama Bin Laden? Didn't you meet him?
Yes, I met him, not in here in Afghanistan, but in Sudan. Back in 1993, I had retired. I had gone to attend an Islamic conference, and there were other delegates along with me, and there were some Afghans, there were some other countries, and Osama invited us to a dinner, and we sat out in the lawn of his house, and I had talked to him. No private meeting between him and me took place. Then again in 94 there was another conference, and I attended that in Khartoum, and again Osama. So twice I have met him. And at that time he was not so much in the limelight, although I think affairs in Somalia were going on at that time. If you remember, Clinton had launched his operations in Somalia, $2 billion and 43,000 troops, and what did you gain? Black Hawk down? That's what you gained? No, that was wrong. It should not have happened. But then from there onward, after the Black Hawk, this Osama somehow became target of the CIA. They had created Osama themselves. I used to hear, when I was chief of intelligence, I used to hear from the CIA operators singing praises, romanticizing Osama, that there was some heavenly creature who had come down, and he was helping with his machinery to build road, to build tunnels into the mountainside for storage of munitions, etc., and that he was giving blood, and he was getting his people to come and support jihad in Afghanistan, mujahideen. They used to call them muj for, with love and affection. The muj was a very popular figure in the West in those times. If you remember, with his flowing robes, with a long beard and a turban on his head. Now this has become a symbol of somehow hate and despise. But at that time, this was a symbol of love and affection. And that was the time when Osama was praised by them. We never trained any Arabs. We never dealt with any other nationality other than the Afghan nationalities, the ISI. This was our commitment that we will only train and help the Afghans, nobody else. But then the mujahideen came from all over the world, courtesy of Abdullah Azam and America and Saudi Arabia, and they came in huge numbers, and they went inside Afghanistan, and we never stopped them, to be honest, because they were doing, as far as the Americans were concerned, the Saudis were concerned, they were supportive of a very big cause that was ousting the Russians from Afghanistan. Otherwise, the Russians would have expanded to the east and to the west and southward, and that was, fortunately, it was achieved. But after that, America emerged as the sole superpower, and they started beating the very people who had done so much favor to them that they laid down 1.3 million lives, Afghan lives, and nearly one-third of their population was dislocated and became refugees in other countries and internal refugees. So this is a great betrayal. I felt hurt myself, not for Pakistan, but I felt hurt because Afghans were abandoned so readily by the Americans who had done so much for them. America did not give life. No single American life was lost in that war. and you won that war because of people like me who were planning, working day in and day out. And, there's a long story. There are many things, many stories go with it. Some are very nice ones, pleasant ones, some are not so pleasant. But I think they did a very wrong turn. And that has brought now all this misery, all this damage to the world that we are now suffering today.
And then and the story goes, the mujahideen then turned into Al-Qaeda. And then, they eventually, that anger bubbled up of that American betrayal, and 9/11 happened. But, I mean, from what the interviews I've seen you conduct, you kind of have a different version of events on how that all went down. Can you go into that, please?
I was the first one to say that, but I think now it is almost an open secret that this was because of an inner cavity in America. It was an inside job. Why the third building fell down, which had 40 stories? Why did it go down in a similar fashion as the two others went down? And now there are, a group from the Harvard and MIT engineers and experts who have given their verdict. 82-page documents. I have it with me in my library. It says that this could not have happened. The aviators don't think that Ata Muhammad could have maneuvered that huge jumbo aircraft to come down from 9,000 feet and go into very accurately. He had only 6 months training on light aircraft in Miami Flying Club. No, this is nonsense. I think this needs to be probed. And why has no inquiry been conducted so far? And why the FBI website doesn't say that we have solid evidence on Osama Bin Laden? So I am right in my conjecture that this was an inside job, and this was only to find an excuse to attack the world. And that's what the evil spirit is. I think that dark impulse that I refer to, I think that is reflective of that dark impulse, that they wanted the world conquest. They saw this was their golden opportunity, window of opportunity historically to carry out conquest of the world. But I think it has ended up in a disaster for Americans and for the rest of the world.
Dick Cheney himself has said in interviews that Osama Bin Laden is not a suspect in the 9/11 attacks. You've met Osama Bin Laden personally. Who is Osama Bin Laden? That the American people don't know. I mean, he's painted as a monster to us. What is he like personally?
Oh my God! He was struck like a very shy sort of a man when I met him, with flashing black eyes, big eyes, and he looked quite sweet and. I don't know what was in his mind. We didn't converse much on this. Exchanging pleasantries, and he was recalling the old days in Afghanistan. But then he landed back, and who invited him? Ahmad Shah Massoud and Rabbani, who became favorites of America subsequently. In May of 1996, he was invited back by them, and then somehow he got in. I don't know. There's still a mystery for me. I don't know about it. How he got close to Mullah Omar and this, that, the other. That's another story. That twice Osama bin Laden is on record to have said, "I did not do it, but whoever has done it, I have nothing but prayers for."